For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin here in Caracas, where President Nicolas Maduro offered his reaction just minutes after learning that Venezuela had been voted into the United Nations Security Council. The country will serve a 2-year term beginning in 2015. Maduro says the move is an indication of international support for Venezuela and its ideas.
It is a motive of great pride for our country. I want to salute all of Venezuela this day, that the world has expressed their support to our nation. Our nation is admired internationally. Our hearts should be filled with joy, because our country is loved, our nation is admired. Our leader Hugo Chavez repositioned our country with dignity. This victory belongs to Hugo Chavez. He keeps winning battles around the world. This is an independent Venezuela. The confidence deposited in a country in the United Nations Security Council has broken records with 181 countries voting in favor of our inclusion.
For continuing coverage of this historic event, we go to our correspondent in Caracas, Rachel Boothroyd. Rachel.
Venezuela has won a non-permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council, replacing fellow South American country Argentina. 181 countries voted in favour of Venezuela's candidacy, which will be the first country in history to occupy a seat at the Security Council and simultaneously hold the 3-year chair of the non-aligned movement.
It's evidence of the worldwide support which exists for our message of peace, solidarity and social justice.
The role will see the country sit alongside the 5 permanent members of the Security Council: the United States, France, the United Kingdom, China and Russia. It will contribute to key decisions aimed at addressing global conflicts.
This world must fight, above all, to ensure that international law is applied in the sphere of international relations.
Venezuela has promised to take its non-interventionist policies into the heart of the UN, with its election to the Security Council coming less than a month after Maduro delivered an emotional speech condemning the foreign invasion of Iraq and Syria at the UN General Assembly. The country will hold the position from January 1st, 2015 until December 31st, 2016. Rachel Boothroyd for Telesur in Caracas, Venezuela.
And thanks to Rachel, it wasn't just a historic day for Venezuela. Argentina also celebrated a first. The country is now the first Latin American country to launch its own telecommunications satellite into space. It's also just one of 8 regions in the world to have rocketed into orbit a geostationary satellite. The new device will provide cell phone, digital TV, internet, and data services to much of South America. The Argentine-built satellite is also the first to be constructed by a Latin American country. It was launched just over a couple of hours ago from a base in French Guiana. The satellite forms part of a wider strategy to enhance Argentina's communications capacity. Argentina's President Cristina Fernandez says that her country is now part of an elite club with other members including the U.S., Russia, China, Japan, Israel, India, and the European Union. The cost of the satellite is around $270 million and will have a useful life of around 15 years. On a more somber note, the teachers' union from the Mexican state of Guerrero have announced the takeover of 81 municipal buildings. It marks the latest event of civil disobedience over the disappearance of 43 students who were attacked by police and masked gunmen who also killed 6 people. Mexican authorities have discovered 6 newly freshly dug pits similar to those mass graves that were found. None of the recently discovered graves actually contained any bodies. It brings the total number of mass graves found around Iguala since the students' disappearance to 19. So far, forensic experts have only concluded tests on 28 bodies found on October 4th. They turned out not to be the bodies of the students. In the meantime, the Mexican Senate is debating the possibility of substituting all officials in Guerrero to reestablish order in the southern state. President Enrique Peña Nieto has summoned his cabinet to seek measures to deal with the crisis that has drawn international condemnation. We go to Colombia, we go to our correspondent Clayton Kahn in Mexico. He has an update on the crisis of the missing students.
Today, family and classmates of the 43 missing Ayotzinapa students took control and are occupying various municipalities throughout the state of Guerrero, where the 43 were forcibly disappeared. The decision was agreed upon yesterday evening by National Popular Assembly so as to continue to pressure the authorities to return alive those 43 students. Students from the Teachers Training College also organized brigades to clean parts of the state capital Chilpancingo to present a positive image after enraged protesters partially burned the Congress building earlier this week. And Guerrero State Governor Angel Aguirre now admits that the state knew of the Iguala police attack in the moment, but did not respond because the now fugitive mayor didn't answer his telephone.
Thanks to Charles. And now we go to Colombia, where our correspondent Charles Parkinson investigates the status of political prisoners. The topic is key for ongoing peace talks scheduled to begin again next week in Havana, Cuba.
Jaime Enrique Murillo is a former member of guerrilla group the National Liberation Army, or ELN, and he spent 7 years imprisoned after being captured by Colombian authorities. According to Murillo, insurgents and trade unionists are subjected to especially bad treatment in Colombia's massively overcrowded jails.
There is always verbal and physical abuse and degrading treatment of the political prisoners.
Murillo was among the audience at a forum to discuss the situation of political prisoners, particularly in the context of Colombia's ongoing peace talks. Speaking at the forum, Carlos Medina Gallego of Bogotá's National University demanded that a political prisoner be allowed to take part in the negotiations.
It's necessary to explore other spaces outside of institutions that show the political will of the government to offer a presence at the negotiating table of a political prisoner.
Whether or not a political prisoner is included in either of the final two victims delegations set to take part in peace talks in Havana, the government will have to face the pressing question of how they are addressed in any final agreement. Charles Parkinson, Telesur, in Bogotá, Colombia.
And to Bolivia, where Bolivian President Evo Morales has criticized the country's Supreme Electoral Council for delays in delivering the results from the Bolivian general elections. Those elections took place on Sunday. His comments coincide with an announcement by representatives from the ruling Bolivian Movement Towards Socialism Party. They called for the Supreme Electoral Court to explain the delays. They say the Bolivian Congressional Justice Committee should request a report from the court. Following his electoral victory, Morales told reporters that he seeks to reduce the total population of people living in extreme poverty from the current levels of 19% to 8% by 2020. He has also pledged to take basic services to all Bolivians before the end of his next presidential term. Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff has declared political reform as one of the main proposals of her election campaign. During the announcement, Rousseff said that political reform is essential in combating corruption and in enhancing civic engagement in the country's political process. Earlier this week, the president signed an agreement urging the Brazilian Congress to pass a bill focusing on the financing of election campaigns, the electoral system, and the proportional party coalitions. The Russian Foreign Ministry says that Moscow will not participate in coalitions created to bypass the UN Security Council and in violation of international law. The Russian ministry also denied media reports that Washington and Moscow have agreed to share intelligence on Islamic State terrorists. Initial reports indicated the two countries agreed that they would share intelligence on Islamic State militants in Syria and Iraq. That would have included Russian participation in training and advising of Iraqi security forces. Tensions between Moscow and Washington have increased as a result of the recent crisis in Ukraine. A look at sports. Soccer superstar Lionel Messi is celebrating 10 years since he began his league debut for Barcelona. He has played a total of 434 games for the Spanish football club. Since his career began, the 27-year-old has scored 249 goals in 284 appearances. Throughout his decade-long career, Messi has gone on to win the Golden Ball Award a record 4 times, 6 league titles, and 3 Champions League medals. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.